Hello everyone, this is Science Wins and welcome to Let's Play DuckTales for the original Nintendo. DuckTales is probably one of my favorite games of all time, and it's a great place for me to start, only because it's something I'm very knowledgeable in, having played the game hundreds of times. I won't pretend to know everything in the game, because I'm sure there's secrets out there that I just haven't discovered yet, but it is something that, even from a young age, it was just fun to explore. We will be playing on the difficult setting today. The reason being is we want to get the best ending in the game, which requires us to beat it with $10 million or more. But in order to do that on normal, you have to utilize Launchpad and go back to Duckburg to bank all the money you collect in the level. This way, a lot of the power-ups are turned into cash. Starting off in the Amazon, I'm going to hit these two tree trunks, which produces a giant yellow diamond, and these giant diamonds are worth 10,000 points, while those three smaller diamonds are only worth 1,000 each. And you'll notice that I'm going to prioritize a lot of the yellow diamonds, and a lot of them are going to just fly out in midair. Additionally, you may notice that I hit almost every block that I can. It's some weird OCD thing I started when I was playing this game a long time ago as a kid, and I think it's just a habit at this point. Moving on to the first real secret of the game, if you hit this block over and climb up the statue, you come to the secret room in true Mario fashion that has 4 treasure chests. Now most people would stop at this point, but actually if you continue moving to the left, there is another hidden room that has one more treasure chest. And inside this treasure chest, we'll see our first big red diamond. Now, the big red diamonds are worth 50,000 points, and those are often what replaces the life up items or the extra mans inside the levels. Moving across this little chasm, you'll notice there's spikes on the ceiling and the ground, and what you want to do here is when you're pogoing, you want to let go of the pogo just before you hit the top, and start pogoing again on your way down. I messed up on the first jump, but I got it on the second. Moving forward, we're going to get a bunch of secret diamonds on the left-hand side here. That's definitely the right. And we're going to move back towards the left of the level, the start of the level, because there's a few secrets over here that we missed out on by going down below. First one being right here. We got 2 giant red diamonds inside these chests. It's going to put us a long way towards $10 million. And because I got hurt, I'm going to pick up this extra ice cream cone right over here. Ice cream cones do restore your life. Now this tree trunk is the only tree trunk in this level that actually has an enemy hidden inside of it. Most levels have a decent amount of the troll boxes, basically, that are there. This one only has 1. Now, moving a little bit forward, you'll notice that as I climbed this vine, there was those 2 bees. And when I was younger, the 2 bees scared me a lot. But as I grew up, I found that a good speedrunning strategy is just to keep climbing the rope, and the 2 bees will miss you altogether. Same with this 1 bee right here. If you just keep running right, that's still the left. You can actually avoid him altogether. You'll run right underneath him. Another good strategy here is when Launchpad carries across this chasm, there's actually a bee that will come from the left if you're facing left. So I turned to the right, and I force spawned the bee on the right to make sure I didn't get hit. 9 times out of 10, if the bee spawns from the left and you get hit, you just fall down the pit. Alright, moving into the temple, my OCD kicks in a lot right there. As you noticed, I destroyed every block without having to. Probably only needed to destroy 4 of the 6 that were there. And Launchpad here, he acts as sort of a checkpoint to the level. Most of the time, if you die during a level and you talk to Launchpad, you'll restart at Launchpad. Like I said, we want to avoid using him, so we're going to skip him for the moment, and we're going to go to the secret area and collect a few more treasures. And we're going to continue through the level. This is the first instance of some very Indiana Jones things, and if you get this treasure chest, right above it's actually a vine that will take you to a warp to the boss of the Incan Temple. We're going to skip that because we still want to get as much gold as possible. So continuing to move forward, I'm going to get a few hits from these spiders and talk to this giant statue. Now normally this statue requires you to pay $300,000 in order to go up him. When you pay that money, a little platform will appear right below the vine and allow you to continue. We're going to use the enemy to just pogo up to him. Now, Dewey here tells you to use your cane to defeat the treasure keepers, which I think is a little late considering the fact that we've been using the cane to defeat enemies the entire way through the game so far. If he was at the very beginning of the level, I'd understand a little bit more, but I'm assuming it's just for this boss fight here. Now, this Incan statue isn't the worst enemy in the game and has a lot of the same strategies as like Gutsman does. So when the screen shakes, you can't pogo, but if you wait a moment, because it stuns the enemy also, you can pogo again and hit him on the head. Once we beat him, we're going to get the Staff of the Incan King. We're going to tally up the score, do a little dance, and head back to Duckburg. As the score tallies here, I want to talk about the levels themselves, because they all share very typical video game level tropes. Amazon's obviously the jungle, Transylvania is the haunted house, African Mines is the underground, Himalayas is the snow level, and the moon is really the only one that doesn't fit in here. But I think it's just accepted because of the amazing music it has. Of these levels, Himalayas is definitely my least favorite. The ice physics in this game are awful, and the goat enemies just make me rage. The African Mines is the easiest, with the easiest boss fight and the quickest shortcut to get to him. And the moon, as I mentioned, all is forgiven because the moon is just amazing musically. We're going to start off by going to the African Mines here. The reason we're doing this is because when you go in, Louie here tells you that you need a skeleton key, and it's inside Transylvania. And this always bothered me because it's a jarring break in the game itself. Most of the time, people would probably go from Transylvania to here if you're just going straight down the list. But if you've already beat Transylvania, I don't see a reason to go back to it. So I just get the key first, and then play the Transylvania level normally. Now, these suits of armor are a lot like the tree trunks in the Amazon. There's a lot more here that will troll you, though. Those heads will come off and try to hit you. Webigail here tells us that Huey's been kidnapped by the Beagle Boys, and we have to go save him. We're going to do that first so that we can get Webigail to disappear from the start of the level. When we take a different route, she tends to still be there if we don't save him first. And I want to avoid her as much as possible because the talking to these characters breaks the game for me. So I want to get rid of her so that when we come back through her area, we can easily just move forward through the level itself. Now there's two ghosts that are here, and you'll notice to avoid them, I wait for them to kind of swoop down twice before I walk underneath them. So 1, 2, run. And then we get to another little area of the game where there's more. These coffins are a lot like the suits of armor. So if we smack them, we'll actually get more money. Now you'll notice I'm skipping this one, and there's a very good reason for that. And it's because some of them, if you hit them, the ghost flies out. So from this point forward, I will be avoiding all of the suits of armor or the coffins that have ghosts in them, or ones that are just there to trap you, and just getting the ones that have treasure. Now this little room, I've always found a lot of fun to get to, just because of the mini little pogo area before it. And for whatever reason, the small pogo hallways were always my favorite, and I think it's just because when I pogo in the game, the pogoing mechanic is really fun. So, in order to pogo, what you have to do is, as you're in the air, you have to press the down button and the B button on the controller, and when you do, Scrooge McDuck will pogo. But if, for whatever reason, you're not holding down the B button when you hit the ground, he'll stop pogoing. Now, moving on to our first secret area and the illusion wall that Huey told us about, we get the first life up item of the game. You notice I'm skipping those 2 coffins. There are ghosts inside all of them. And then we're going to go and get our, well, probably not our first extra life, I think that's our 3rd at this point. And go into this little secret area. Now these minecarts always cause me a lot of stress because jumping out of them, for whatever reason, is the most difficult thing in the world for me. They actually have to have stopped moving, and they have to be on their downward descent in order to jump out of them. And you have to really press right and the jump button to get out, and I always end up pressing up instead of jumping out. Now, moving forward, we didn't want to go down that vine back there, because if we do, it takes us back to the beginning of the level, and there's a few more treasures over here we want to collect. Again, moving to the suit of armor room, we're just going to grab the suits of armor that actually have treasures in them. About half of these their helmet will get knocked off and be smashed into you. And because the hallways are so tight, it's more difficult to avoid them. It's not impossible to avoid them, but I prefer to just not let that happen, period. And with that done, we're moving to the end of the level here. We're going to go through the second illusion wall. Collect a big red diamond in the corner, and go to the boss hallway. Now, these boss hallways I always found really interesting because they're a lot like the doorway leading to a boss in a Mega Man game, only a lot more in depth. Well, except for the first Mega Man game, which had enemies inside of them. But you can definitely sense that Keiji Inafune worked on this game just from those boss hallways that are here. Awkwardly enough, Magica De Spell is one of the only mainstay DuckTales villains that is a fightable boss in this game. She's one of the few that actually show up. She always also ruined my speedruns for this game because the altitude that she flies at as the Vulture is always different. Anyway, normal 5 hits. We're going to collect the Mystic Coin and go back to Duckburg. Moving on, we're going to hit the African mines here, and since we already have the skeleton key, we won't have to go back to Transylvania for it. These bat enemies, while they're easy to manipulate, I prefer to avoid them, so I just usually use rocks to hit them out of the sky. Now these coal boxes are the equivalent of the suits of armor, or the coffins, or the tree stumps. All of them tend to have a large gold diamond inside of them. Now we're going to head over to the left, we're going to pick up, I believe it's the ice cream cone and a red gem, correct? And move back over to the main area of the level and climb down that chain that we missed the first time. Again, make sure to avoid the bat. It's easy to juke them out. They're not too terrible as long as you have enough room. Now this is actually the only time in this version of the game that you will see Mrs. Beakley. Additionally, as a kid, when I found this secret right here, I was amazed. This is going to be one of our first secret treasures of the game, and there's 2 of them in the game, and they're worth the same amount of money as the normal treasures, which is 1 million points. So it's imperative that we grab them both before we beat the game. That chain right there actually leads down to the boss of the level, which is why I mentioned earlier that the Amazon Mines is one of the easiest levels. It also has one of the easiest bosses, and you'll see that as we get to him. We're going to take this illusion wall over here, grab a 1-up. And the reason we go this way, actually there's a multitude of reasons we go this way, and I'll show those off in just a moment. But there's actually an Indiana Jones style boulder if we take the main path, which is almost impossible to not get hit by. Now, I want to collect these 3 treasure chests, but if you use those treasure chests and move to the left across the top of the screen, you'll actually come to an area that has a free man. Now, here's that Indiana Jones boulder I told you about. On the other side is just a small hallway with a rope leading upwards, and we don't necessarily need to go over there. There's no treasures or anything, so we're just going to continue on through the level. A little bit of OCD kicked in right there. Had to destroy more blocks than necessary. Now, here's a really fun area, mostly because pogoing across any enemy tends to be just a joy for me. Sadly, if we utilized that rock, that boulder right there, it wouldn't have actually hit the bat. It would have been about one space off from killing it. So we just pogo it and keep going. Here's your checkpoint if you want it. Talk to Launchpad and then jump down this rope. This minecart right here always made me laugh because Huey, Dewey, and Louie are obviously in it just before you get in it, but then at the end you just ditch them as it falls down the shaft, and they fall to a terrible death. And I've never understood why that's a part of it, but they come back later, so I guess they must be okay. Kid bones fix easily, I suppose. As you can see, you can smack that can across the room and it'll produce that treasure chest that it hits produces an ice cream cone. Since my life was full, I didn't bother to actually collect it. I just went right through. It's easier to kill the Beagle Boy that way. And then we're going to fly across half of the level with this seesaw. That's technically the only way to get over there. Just make sure that you're pogoing when you get to the end, or else you're going to get hurt by the slug underneath you. Before you climb all the way up the rope, take a moment to pause, pick up some gems, jump into this tiny little cubby hole to get more gems. Next, we're going to switch sides, get another gem, and then continue on. That shortcut I mentioned earlier actually leads you right here to the boss hallway of the level. Lucky enough, when that bat hit me and I killed him, I was able to get another piece of life from him. And if you need another one, there's one piece of life right at the end of the level. Now, these slug monster, well, I don't remember exactly what the name of this monster is, but it's actually one of the characters that does show up in the cartoon itself. And I think they, at the time, they were just causing earthquakes. Anyway, simple pattern. He rolls in the ball, goes in the circle. As long as you're on top of him, when he rolls into a ball, you'll be fine. 5 hits, kill him, collect the giant gem of the inner earth, go back to Duckburg. Alright, moving on to the Himalayas. Like I mentioned earlier, this is my least favorite level in the game. Large majority of it comes from the fact that if you try to pogo on the snow, you're going to fall into it. You have to wait a moment to jump out, and just press the jump button, you'll come out. So you can't just pogo through the level, and I tend to pogo a lot of the time when I'm moving through levels. Additionally, these goat enemies tend to pogo, or tend to jump at the exact height that your pogo takes you to. So they're a little bit hard to avoid. You can run underneath them with good timing, but I try to bounce off of something first, then kill them. We don't want to go down the first rope because there is a ice cream cone over here that will refill some life, and a secret passage. Now this is the only level actually that we will be utilizing Launchpad, and I want to utilize them for 2 reasons. The first being is that on the Himalayas, for one reason or another, I always have the best luck in getting the secret bonus area of the game. And in order to get that secret bonus area of the game, you have to make sure that the 10,000 digit on your score for the current level is 7. Now, before we utilize Launchpad, well, 1, here's the only cake on difficult mode, and the cake itself will refill all your energy if you lost 3 of your 4 pieces. But when we jump across these pits, we're going to find Bubba Duck, who, as Huey has informed us is trapped in the ice. When we save Bubba, he's going to open up this little secret passage, which will give us our second life up item. And then when you're jumping back across here, be careful. I find that if you jump too early, you're going to always fall in the pit. So make sure you're jumping right at the very edge of the ledge. Additionally, this level is full of these spider enemies, and as you just saw, he more or less had a spasm. He just twitched, and again, right there, and it's like the game fakes you and it makes you freak out and run back and then run forward, and I tend to get hit by them a lot. Now you're gonna watch me kill this rabbit over and over again. This rabbit tends to be my lucky rabbit and give me the large yellow diamonds that I need. It's not cooperating with me this time, so I go a little bit further in the level and I pick up one of the large diamonds just a little bit further up, so that it'll be a little easier on me than having just killed this guy 20 times. And of course he still doesn't provide it, so I'm going to run back and forth, kill the rabbits as I go. And there it is, my large diamond. Alright, we're going to talk to Launchpad and fly back to Duckburg. Now, as I mentioned earlier, the only way to get the secret bonus area in the game is when you go and talk to Duckburg, or talk to Launchpad. You have to have at least, you have to have the 7 in your tens of thousands column for your current score for the level. And Gyro Gearloose here will just throw out a bunch of diamonds for you, and it tends to, the amount of diamonds he throws out changes each time. I've had him throw out close to 20,000 for me. I believe that time was about 20,000. Sometimes he'll throw out even more, closer to 30, 40,000. And it seems to be different every time. I haven't quite figured out what causes that. However, a benefit of talking to Launchpad to banking our money is that when we go back to the level, all of the secret treasure that we collected before is back. So I will be collecting all of that treasure again. It's going to be necessary for us to get the best ending of the game. However, I won't be taking the path back to Bubba. I'm just going to go down this rope right here. It's going to help me avoid a lot of spider enemies. Now, as you drop down, make sure you're pressing to the left so that you land on the platform. Now, this is one of those secret areas that seems to lead to nowhere, but if you look just to the left of my feet, there's a rope. And when I jump and press up, I can climb up here. As a kid, I always thought that these hockey player enemies were like Jason Voorhees, but the DuckTales version. I don't know why, because I think a large part of it is that Disney tends to make like parody characters of popular fiction or like celebrities. So in my mind is always Jason Voorhees, but Duck Jason Voorhees. I don't have a good pun for that. I can't think of any ducks that start with the letter V. Jason Voorhees. Oh my god, that's fucking genius! Alright, moving on here. We're faking out the spiders, making sure that they don't hurt us. I checked for this piece of ice cream that I apparently got previously, but no harm, no foul. I still have 4 pieces of life. The final secret in this level is just on the top left here. Make sure you hit these cans out of the way. We're going to get a giant red diamond and head back the way we came. This platforming right here seems a little scary at first, but to be honest with you, the platform itself moves in even kilt, and it just scrolls at the same pace that the screen scrolls. As long as you can make it to the middle section, you'll be fine. The boss of this level is the Abominable Snowman, and it's a pretty easy boss. Very typical pattern: 2 jumps, punches the wall, ice balls fall down. You can usually get 2 hits on him in a rotation. Once we kill him, we get the treasure, which is the crown of Genghis Khan, and we move forward. Alright, moving on to the moon here, which tends to be everyone's favorite level. A large part of that is the music. It's very melodic. It's something that stays with you forever. A lot of the enemies here, I think, come from the episode where Launchpad McQuack takes the nephews to, I think it's the nephews and their junior woodchuck friend to this TV station because of some Buck Rogers-esque character in the show who's like a space pilot on a TV show, and they get abducted by real aliens, and this happens. That's the only way I can imagine these enemies appear in the game. I understand gorillas and bats; those are pretty typical tropes for any video game. But these aliens have a very unique design, and I have a feeling it's from that episode. Starting off, we're going to go to the right-hand side of the level. We're going to the right first for a narrative purpose, because if we went up the main path, it would actually take us to all the items that we need to beat the level. But this way, if we go this way first, we actually talk to Webigail, who will tell us what we need to beat the level. This level is a little bit more exploration-based. There's multiple different pathways, and there's many ways we go about beating the level. So on a first-time playthrough, you may get lost. Again, it's still a kid's game, so there's nothing terrible about it. It's still very straightforward and linear in the long run. What I like about these mechanical duck monster robot things is that if they hit you, 9 times out of 10, they'll drop an ice cream cone of some sort. Here's Webigail telling us that we need a key to get further into the UFO. Oh, there's an enemy I killed that drops an ice cream cone. Now, we're going to go and get the second secret treasure of the game. And I don't know the names of the secret treasures themselves. One I've just called the Emerald Ring because it's a red ring. And this one I'm calling the Alien Microchip because that's kind of what it looks like. Well, like, this looks like 1980s cartoon microchip, really. Make sure you pogo across these spikes to go back. It's very much a similar situation to the first hidden treasure where you pogoed over enemies. This time, you're just pogoing over top of spikes. Heading back to the start of the level, I got hit by that enemy dropping down. Mostly I just forgot that he was there. So we're going to take the actual path to completion here. Again, my OCD kicks in. I break a bunch of blocks I really don't need to. Something else that destroys speedruns of this game is these mechanical ducks flying through this little passageway and getting stuck, because what happens is once they land, they do this strange, like, hopping punch maneuver. So if they get stuck in the blocks, they just basically bounce up and down and move over at a very slow pace. Alright, we're going to go over to the left, grab a few more secrets by running across the top of the screen, and then head up to get the key. Now in this area is where you'll find Launchpad, so if you need the checkpoint, go ahead and talk to him. I almost feel like on the moon level, it's more beneficial to not talk to Launchpad, because once we get the remote, and anytime that you collect an item in this game, it stays with you permanently through death. Once we collect the remote, it's basically a straight line from the start of the level to the boss. Alright, heading back down, we're going to go back to where we found Webigail. Deal with more of these mechanical robots getting trapped in short, small hallways. You notice that the level itself is going to go much quicker now. The major part of this is the quote-unquote maze that is the UFO itself. Bless me bagpipes. Now Gizmo Duck can blast that wall. Alright. Let's go ahead and run over, fight through some enemies. And we'll get Gizmo Duck to destroy that wall at the very end of the level. As you see there, I did pogo on the enemy. This time I remembered him. Fool me once, shame on you. And I always recommend actually climbing down this rope instead of just jumping down and pressing right. I seem to die every time I don't jump from the rope to the platform itself. More OCD kicks in and destroy a bunch of blocks I don't need to. And lucky enough, that robotic duck drops some life for us. Alright, off-colored Gizmo Duck opens up the door for us. We go in. Again, my OCD kicks in. I have to destroy a bunch of blocks. And again. And again. And again. And again. It's a real problem. If I wasn't recording this, I probably would have destroyed every single block that I came across in the game. Alright, now the giant rat here is probably my least favorite boss. A large part of that is just because he doesn't telegraph which way he's going to jump. It's just blind guess at where he's going to be at a time. And I always feel like his invulnerability frames last longer. Either way, when we beat him, we're going to open up this treasure chest, collect the green cheese of longevity, tally our score, and head back to Duckburg. Alright, you'll notice that as our score tallies, we finally hit that 10 million mark, just a little bit over it. And for whatever reason, we throw all our treasures around the room, and we get a message saying that if we want them back, we have to go to Dracula Duck Manor. Now, I've always felt this is a bit of a cop-out because it just takes us back to Transylvania. And the level itself hasn't changed at all. The only thing that's different is there's no more treasure in the level. But the idea here is that we just head to the boss room for the last confrontation of the game. You'll notice I'm doing my best to make sure I have all my life when I get there. Now, luckily, the level itself is relatively short, so it doesn't really hinder us in any real way. There, I check to make sure that there are no more diamonds that I can collect. And I'm going to use this ghost as I go across, since I know there's no more money, just so that more don't pop up, don't spawn in front of me. Now, Dracula Duck himself is not a difficult boss fight. Typical platforming boss. Just jump off the bats, jump on his head. The bats will go to different altitudes. You'll notice that I will be hesitant for some of them. The ones that go up very high, it is possible to get the hit on them and then jump on Dracula Duck himself. It's just a little bit more difficult. Notice I try to space myself further away from him, which doesn't actually make him spawn different bat altitudes. It's like a placebo effect that I use. I'm starting to get greedy. I know I only have one more hit left. And there we go. I position myself underneath the rope, get ready for Glomgold to try and race me to the top to get the rest of the treasure. But to be honest, you fly much faster than... well, you climb much faster than they can fly. Jump off the rope, onto the treasure box as long as you're there before Glomgold. That is the end of the game. In addition to finding the legendary 5 treasures, Scrooge McDuck has stunned the world with his discovery of 2 lost treasures. You're a master treasure hunter. Now, the ending itself doesn't change terribly much from normal to difficult to easy. They're exactly the same ending. Like I mentioned earlier, you just need to make sure you have $10 million in the bank before you beat the game in order to get the full ending, the best ending, which is Scrooge McDuck sitting on top of a giant pile of money. And something that always kind of bothered me about this game is that once you beat it, there's no actual credit scroll. And this is a game that came late into the, relatively late into the NES's lifespan. And even early games on the Nintendo, ones that just looped repeatedly, tended to have that credit scroll. Either way, let's take a moment here and let's see what would happen if we didn't get the best ending. Now the boss fight with Dracula Duck is the same. You're still going to have to climb the rope to collect all the treasures over again. Again, just jump off the rope. You should easily beat Glomgold and Magica to the top. And this time when you do, it's just a treasure box with a bunch of gold in it instead of a giant pile of money. This time I also did not collect the 2 secret treasures to show that the newspaper article itself is just slightly different. Daring explorer Scrooge McDuck has found the 5 legendary treasures, making him the richest duck in the world. You're an expert treasure hunter. Now the little after the ending script is exactly the same. Nothing's really changed here. Huey, Dewey, and Louie say, "Don't forget we help too." And Scrooge McDuck brags about being the richest duck in the world again. And the DuckTales theme plays us out. Thank you everyone for watching. This was Science Wins with Let's Play DuckTales. I hope you enjoyed. Have a great day.